Please welcome back to the stage Alessandra Orofino and Jess Search.
Hello, friends.
Welcome.
Welcome all to the closing plenary.
All those folks who are here for the first time, how was it? Tell us. Woohoo!
Well, as someone who's been to 12, I think I can say that this one has been a smash. As we say in England, an absolute stonker.
I love that.
So many amazing moments.
So many. Like Maria Ressa reminding us that while misinformation travels 6 times faster than truth online, the only emotion that spreads as fast as anger is inspiration. I love that one.
And Al Gore warning us against toxic positivity whilst demonstrating that you can get 40 years of service from a single pair of cowboy boots. Yeah.
Who didn't love those boots? They were just perfect. Or Ava giving us fuel, food, and fire.
And Michael from PolicyLink collecting his Skoll Award just last night, saying that he had the blessing of knowing who he serves and the price he's prepared to pay to serve them. And that sentiment, that's really what we've seen here these last days. Realistic discussions about the collapse of climate systems, the retreat of democracy, misinformation out of control. But in the face of that, not just the ingenuity that we expect from social innovators, but a community driven by a profound sense of duty. It's an old-fashioned word, but a profound sense of duty. In the tradition of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, who wrote these words almost 2,000 years ago, in the end, what would you gain from everlasting remembrance? Absolutely nothing. So what is left worth living for? Only this: justice in thought, goodness in action, speech that cannot deceive, and a disposition glad of whatever comes.
This past week, I have experienced a profound sense of relief just by connecting with you. I believe that the unimaginable scale of human suffering takes a profound psychological toll on all of us because humans are fundamentally compassionate. We want to help each other, so much so that sometimes we can't quite cope with the impossibility of doing it all by ourselves. And that's why we need to recognize and celebrate the people doing this work, because their existence, your existence, is what gets me up in the morning, and I think all of us up in the morning, knowing that we have a community around us, working with us as we all strive to live up to our own responsibilities. I was raised in a Catholic family, but I've come to value the great wisdom present in so many faiths. And a Jewish friend told me here just yesterday about a passage from the Talmud that goes like this: "Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it." Our work will not be done during our lifetimes, but the role of this community is to give us reason not to desist from it.
And Governor Moore told us yesterday People who serve together stay together. And judging by what happened after that, people who dance together are going to stay together also.
Yes.
Yeah. And talking of dancing, this is our 20th World Forum, but this year is also the 50th anniversary of the dawn of hip-hop.
Yeah. You can sense what we're getting at. It's really hard to overstate the movement's cultural and social impact around the world, including in my home country of Brazil, during this past 50 years. And our next conversation is going to shed light on what comes next. The moderator of this panel is Skoll Foundation board member, president of Echoing Green, and a huge fan of hip-hop. Yes, Cheryl Dorsey. But I know.
She got our own huge fans out here.
But before Cheryl introduces us to our very special guests, let's watch a short video together about their work.
When hip-hop started, it started from the rubble. It started from the Bronx.
Hip-hop was created by oppression because it was our arts that defended us against the oppression.
It has been a broadcast culture for us to speak truth to power.
When I came into hip hop, I was totally captivated by the greatness of this MC DJ presentation thing. Hip hop removed the labels of the civil rights struggle. We took elements that everybody across the board could relate to and pinpointed it from our struggle without sounding like we was complaining.
Because I need that dollar every day of the week, hard time.
Hip Hop Public Health was founded in 2005 by Dr. Olajide Williams.
Before the written word, we had music, and look at that power.
Hip Hop Public Health creates research-based educational resources by harnessing the power of music and culture to improve health in communities that are underserved.
Trust me, believe me, we're not gonna have another Tuskegee.
First of all, Hip Hop Public Health, it's an educator. We give out the information, we teach people.
Here's a little story about this year. Who would have thought we would end up here?
We just want health, prosperous individuals.
Female MCs were always on the front line. Always on the front line.
Senegalese hip-hop star Sister Far is an international activist leading a campaign against female genital mutilation or cutting. She works closely with the Orchid Project, a UK-based charity aimed at publicising the issue.
Hip-hop chose me because he wanted me to represent and to talk for all of those people who did not have the opportunity to say why they are suffering.
Music is key to her campaign.
Colombia, mi raíz, mi esencia, mi cuna, como ninguna hermosa musa que hoy impulsa esta pluma.
Ali Ray Montoya, better known as Ali A.K.A. Mind, is an independent rapper born in the city of Bogota, Colombia. His music is influenced by multiple genres, and his inspiration comes from the realities of his life with a message of social conscience. He is known for using his music to raise awareness about social issues.
De la mano de Ali A.K.A. Mind, uno de los referentes del rap en Latinoamérica y el mentor principal de resistencia hip hop, reunimos a 12 artistas y agrupaciones de Bogotá y Cali que han documentado desde la música los procesos de resistencia en el país.
Thousands marched in London, Berlin, Tehran, Rio de Janeiro, even across the globe in New Zealand.
We're
talking about the largest protest in American history. And arguably, perhaps some of the largest protests in world history. That is very much a reflection of hip hop.
Skoll World Forum, how you feeling? How you feeling? You all are a beautiful sight to behold. So as you heard, hip hop is political, right? Hip hop is the most popular musical genre around the world. Hip hop pulls from the Black tradition of the spoken word. Hip hop has forced the structures of power to make room for different voices. Hip hop is a radical megaphone. And hip hop speaks into existence our dreams and our traumas. And hip hop is 50, right? And as hip hop celebrates its 50th year, this extraordinary panel will showcase how hip hop has created culture globally, how it's named systemic challenges, and most importantly, is being used to address them. So please help me welcome to the stage Darryl DMC McDaniels, founder, Run-DMC. Dr. Olajide Williams, founder, Hip Hop Public Health. Sister Fa, rapper and producer. Ali, A.K.A. Mind. And Selena De La Soul De Sola, co-founder, Glasswing, translating for Ali. Welcome. Okay, Darryl, in many ways, this is your house. This is the panel that you built. Okay, as the founding member of the iconic Run-DMC, you truly are considered one of the pioneers of hip-hop and hip-hop culture. Okay, so let's list. Your music video, Rock Box, became the first rap music video played on MTV. Run-DMC was the first rap group to appear on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. And Run-DMC was the first rap group to be awarded the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Exactly. So set this stage for us, Darryl. How did it begin? How did you begin? How did hip-hop culture begin?
Well, hip-hop began like this. In New York City, there was this place called Studio 54. And then there was this other genre called disco. So Hollywood and everybody in the world, the kings, the queens, the movie stars, the athletes, the CEOs, he was coming to New York City to party at Studio 54. So the media, TV, magazines, and newspapers, every time you open up a newspaper or looked at TV, people's perception was that New York City was heaven. Because it was Rolls Royces and Bentleys and private jets and fur coats. So us as young people, the only thing that we related to out of those images were, wow, people get together and play music, and for those 2 or 3 hours, all the darkness, destruction, and devastating could go away. So we said, we're going to take the disco to the streets of New York City. And that was the first thing to do, to party and have a good time, to get away from the violence and the economic and the political systems and the educational systems that wasn't serving us right. But then something else happened. We realized that the world wasn't seeing the truth. So instead of just making songs about partying and rhyming about things we wanted, we wanted cars and stuff, but we didn't have that. We said we need to talk about the conditions that we're in. So when I first heard hip hop, when it came over the bridge from the Bronx, it was like, oh shoot, you could tell stories about who you are. Yes. And it was our reality.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Darryl just provided that important context for us. And you know, for those of us who love hip hop, there's always an origin story. You know, for me, it was 1979's Rapper's Delight and every other rap song that showed up on 92Q, Baltimore's FM station. So the question becomes, Jide, what was your origin story? How did you find hip hop, or how did hip hop find you?
So I actually have had a relationship with hip hop since I was a teenager. But I started partnering with hip hop when I was a neurologist working on the front lines of Harlem Hospital. And working in those conditions at that time, and this was towards the end of the 90s, we were seeing a lot of patients coming in and wishing they just knew a little bit more. They just had a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more information. Maybe we could have saved them and prevented their death. And so in my mind, public health communication wasn't reaching the streets.
Right.
And I asked myself, hip-hop is reaching the streets. You walk from 135th Street at Harlem Hospital down to 125th Street, and you walk past young people reciting rhymes from front to back. And I said to myself, if hip-hop can reach these young people the way it is, then surely we can use hip-hop for public health. And really, that's where hip-hop public health was born. That's where we decided to take the power of music and incorporate it into what we do. And it makes sense scientifically too, Cheryl, because a lot of folks don't realize that music actually occupies twice as much real estate in our brains than language itself. Music occupies both hemispheres, scattered throughout our brains, and language is usually unihemispheric. And that's the reason why hip-hop has such powerful effects on us. It reduces our stress reduces our anxiety levels, our mood. It can help us with learning, help us with memory and retention. So we took those neuroscientific properties of hip-hop and we used it to create hip-hop public health as a force to bring that health literacy to our inner city streets.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Thanks, Jide. Sister Fa, what about you?
This is my family. Love you guys. As a teenager, where I come from in the south of Senegal, in Casamance, we have like a rebellion since 1982, since I was born. And the conditions of the woman was not really very good. They was like pregnant, looking for water, just like cooking, going on the farm, and the man was there doing nothing. And there was also... Okay, the men do some little work. I will get myself in trouble when I go back to Senegal. Then I was seeing also a lot of different social norms, tradition that was really affected the life of little girls there. Sometimes early marriage, female genital mutilation. And the hip-hop music was really very nice way to express yourself, a way of communicating. And I started saying to myself, someone need to talk for those women, for those girls who have been abused. And then it was a very patriarchal music, but why not? And this time it was sister, not brother. Sister Fa, a woman.
Right. Well, Ali, hip-hop, how did it find you? How did you find it?
Bueno, yo soy de Colombia.
I'm from Colombia.
No son mi familia, pero son de mi país. Son como si fueran mi familia.
They're not my family, but they're from my country, so it's as if they were part of my family.
Bueno, yo vengo de un país que ha estado en guerra desde que tengo uso de razón. Y la música siempre ha sido usada a manera de entretenimiento. Yo creo que lo que me llevó al hip hop fue mi hipersensibilidad y las ganas de ser un comunicador.
So I come from a country that's been war-torn for many years, and hip-hop is something that for me has been a vehicle for communication.
Yo creo que yo no encontré el hip hop me encontró a mí, me encontró para salvarme mi vida y creo que eso me convirtió en embajador para poder trabajar en eso.
I didn't find hip-hop found me, and I think that's something that's made me into someone who's transforming.
Y bueno, ahora estoy sentado junto a grandes leyendas y eso me hace sentir muy orgulloso.
I'm sitting next to huge legends, and that makes me feel really proud.
Yes. Okay, so as you all know, one of the themes of this year's forum is 20 years of impact, celebrating 20 years of impact. You know, we talk a lot about the power of hip-hop to broadcast systemic injustices, but not enough about how it is helping to solve them. So, Jide, I'll start with you. Talk to us a little bit about your work and the impact you're having.
Sure. You know, one of the things that, as a physician, is again going back to the issue of music, is how we haven't fully leveraged the power of music. You know, as a stroke physician, we use music to help people speak again. We use music to calm patients who have delirium. You know, music has so much more power than we realize, and by harnessing that power of music, we started building health literacy tools, research-based health literacy tools for communities of color, focusing on the most disadvantaged communities in the United States. And we built these tools with 3 goals. 1 is to actually build health literacy. 2 is to inspire that behavior change. And 3 is to measure the effectiveness of hip-hop in accomplishing those goals. And so we conducted randomized control clinical trials, several randomized control clinical trials with thousands and thousands of children in New York City in the public school system, and demonstrated that not only was hip-hop able to be utilized as an effective public health communication around health literacy, but it could also build behavior change and sustain it. Concrete examples. In one of our trials, we showed little children saving the lives of their parents and grandparents who were having strokes. Imagine that. 4th, 5th, 6th grade children, through a hip-hop intervention, able to do what most people can't do in the setting of that drama and that trauma. And that's the power of hip-hop. We've also scaled that program, for example, to cities across the United States. We've taken the model and we've incorporated other domains, because we realize that hip-hop is not just a vehicle for all the wonderful things that we've seen on the stage. It's a vehicle for saving lives. And so we've taken multiple other disease domains and we've popped them into our model, which is a culturally adapted, scientifically proven model. And we are now scaling it, disseminating it, beginning with the United States and hopefully globally in the near future.
It's extraordinary. Thank you. I'm going to move to Ali next. Can you talk about where your activism leveraging hip-hop, where did that come from? And what impact do you think that's made?
Yo soy de un barrio bastante carenciado de la ciudad de Bogotá, que es la capital de Colombia.
I'm from a community in Bogotá that
y soy una persona que ahora vive en un mundo de privilegios gracias al hip hop. Entonces, cuando empecé, vengo de una familia también muy altruista.
I come from and now I have resources, and I'm really fortunate, and I come from a family who's always been very altruistic.
Entonces sentí que yo no espero nada a cambio con este trabajo social, sino más bien la influencia que estamos dándole a la gente es hay que devolver, porque el hip hop nos entregó una familia.
Yeah, what's happened now is that I know that I don't expect anything in exchange for the hip hop, and what we've gotten from hip hop is a family, and we've gotten so much more, so we don't expect anything in return.
Y he trabajado en varios procesos. El último fue el proceso de Reexistencia, donde tomamos 10 chicos de cada ciudad de Bogotá y de Cali. Dentro de los cuales hay, por ejemplo, una chica trans que hace hip hop, y el otro es un proceso de niños también de un barrio muy peligroso y lleno de guerra.
So we have a program called Reexistence. I hope I get this right. Reexistence that has 10 young people involved, including one trans young person and una niña joven and a young girl.
Ajá. Entonces la idea con todos estos procesos han sido darle una inclusión a esta gente, buscar talentos que estén en el underground, pero sobre todo que tengan procesos de construcción social, y a través de nosotros utilizar el hip hop como herramienta de transformación social también.
So everyone's laughing, Professor. We're trying to use hip hop as a vehicle for transformation, not just of the individual, but also communities themselves with these.
Voy a contar rápidamente un proceso que tuvimos en medio del estallido social en Colombia, en medio de la pandemia.
During the pandemic, I'm going to tell a short story about something that happened.
Hubo muchas marchas y decidimos hacer una nosotros mismos,
There were a lot of protests, and we decided to do one
pensando que
ourselves.
íbamos a convocar 1,000 personas para no molestar a nadie.
We thought we were going to mobilize about 1,000 people to not disrupt
Llegaron
anybody else,
alrededor de 40,000.
and about 40,000 showed up.
Wow. Wow.
Y básicamente lo que nosotros decíamos era, el hip hop hoy no va a rayar paredes, los artistas hoy no van a tomarse fotos con nadie, el hip hop no va a dañar las estaciones del autobús.
So basically what we said is, today hip hop isn't going to damage walls, hip hop isn't going to break any las paredes
Dañar las estaciones del tren.
or damage any train stations or vandalize anything.
Hoy somos una familia y en esta familia hoy no se puede perder una billetera ni una gorra.
We're a family, and in this family, not one hat or wallet can go missing. We're
Y
a
fue
family.
una de las únicas marchas que hubo en Colombia en donde no hubo muertos, no hubo policía y no hubo nada. Solamente hubo hip hop, hubo unión y hubo transformación social.
It was one of the few marches in Colombia where there was no violence, there were no incidences of security and security theft. It was just hip
Y la
hop.
invitación era abrazar.
Wow. Wow. Thank you.
And the invitation was to embrace
La invitación era abrazar nuestro pasado,
our past,
no esconderlo,
not to
entenderlo
hide it,
y
understand
romper
it,
la cadena y empezar de
and
nuevo.
to break the chains and start over again.
It's brilliant. Well done. Sister Fa, same question for you.
Okay, as I said, where I come from in Senegal, I have been seeing that little girls undergo FGM, and it was something very normal. And to talk about it like this openly, people don't like it too much because you mention sexual issues, and this make people feel a little bit disturbed. I remember it's like 18 years ago, I was very young. I decided to use my voice, to use my music to talk and to try to break the taboos around this practice, which is FGM and also child marriage. I decided from Germany, where I'm living, to come to Senegal to start doing some work. And I remember, without any experience, I meet a lovely woman, and I explain her about my story, how annoyed I am against my mom to let me go with one of the worst form of FGM. I told her, today I don't feel like a full woman and I'm not happy. She took my hand and told me, Fatou, your mom cut you because she loves you. And this woman today is in this hall. I want to say thank you to Molly Melching from Tostan for teaching me and leading me. Because from that point, I started to work in school. I work in hospital. I tried to bring the youth around an ideal, which is like using music to talk about FGM. And it was so funny that the woman in my community used the same canal as me to make song against me. It was not hip-hop, but they was insulting me a lot, calling me Salima. And today I'm so happy to announce to you that I united 15 villages, and probably in October we're going to organize a youth conference about the alternative ritual against FGM, because we have been telling them to stop. It was very hard for them to understand. Then I said to myself, you know what? For sure, they're going to stop cutting the girls. They're going to stop marrying the girls very early. They're going to give them a chance to go to school. But immediately, we need to find a solution and then to try to find an alternative ritual against FGM. Then for the let's say, the initiation, all girls who are not cut from the communities can participate also in the initiation ceremony, and then for sure it's going to happen in October in the West African side.
Nice.
Thank you.
So, that's wonderful. So actually, before I go on to the next question, I want to turn back to you, Darryl. When you hear this, hip-hop is this global phenomenon. There's the hip-hop ecosystem, Colombia, Senegal. What do you think of when you hear these stories?
Well, we always knew that it was impactful, but the whole importance of creating hip-hop is to share information that will allow for change. That's the whole point. It wasn't, like I said, when I heard hip-hop, it wasn't about being in show business. And the boys and girls that created it didn't create it with record deals in mind.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They created to change the mental, physical and spiritual, economic and political systems of the cities that they were living in, because it was the way to communicate information that everybody can understand. For instance, a lot of kids don't know that, the Zulu Nation was the biggest street gang in New York City. Africa Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation, they stopped gang banging, stopped selling drugs, and said, how can we make ourselves better? And the world thought that they had nothing. But they said, if we look inside, what is it? So out came the music. Out came the MCs, out came the poetry, out came the break dancing, and out came the artists. And we realized this, the arts succeeds where politics and religion fails.
That's a mic drop. That is a mic drop. And so, I would say it's only been maybe in the last 10 years or so that change-maker communities like this one have been much more intentional and much more explicit about talking about well-being and about centering self-care. And Darryl, I'm going to go back to you. Can you share something with all of us about hip-hop's relationship with mental health, both historically and specifically over the last few very difficult years?
Well, first of all, the message, the message was a mental health record. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder, you know what I'm saying? Excuse me.
Yes.
And also, don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. You know what I'm saying? So we was always addressing the issue.
Yes, brilliant.
So, and we were trying to find a way out, so the very next thing that we did was, there's got to be a solution. So you have the message from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, not just talking about the young youth's truth.
Yes.
We wrote that record because we was watching our mothers, fathers, aunts, and uncles, and grandmothers struggle with unemployment, 9 to 5, and no solutions. But what y'all do here is what hip-hop was already doing 50 years ago. We addressed the issues and problems, and then we knew the only way to the solution is if we do it.
Yeah.
So, Planet Rock, you'll remember Rock to the Planet Rock. Don't stop. We know a place where everybody could be okay, and everybody can eat, and everybody can be safe and stuff like that. So we made music about it to get it. You know what I'm saying? Some people ain't going to get the information from a book. But if you listen to a song, like me and Doc always talk about this, we've always been learning through music and repetition and melody, because that's a great way to learn. One of the greatest hip-hop songs in the history, everybody in this audience did it, and it helped you learn. And let's do it right now. A, B, C, D, E, F, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, Q, R, S, T, U, W, X, Y, and Z. Now you know your ABCs. Come on, y'all. So it's always been there. So hip-hop realized, said, you know what I'm saying?
Brilliant, yes.
So Doc is just taking what was already being done and applying it to where it was needed. And, and for me, when I was coming up, it wasn't cool to be positive. It wasn't cool to be educated. It wasn't cool to do good things. But hip-hop allowed me to come up and say, I was never in a gang. I never sold drugs. I don't want to go to jail because I like my freedom. And one of the things that shows that it's worked, I stood up in front of the world on my first record. In the same way people would rap about drug dealing and shooting and fighting in the gang, I rapped, I'm DMC, in the place to be. I go to St. John's University. And since kindergarten, I acquired the knowledge. After 12th grade, I'm going straight to college. Now, what surprised me, what surprised me was younger kids, I was 18 when I did that.
Okay.
All the kids 17 to like 6 came up to me because I wasn't famous yet, but it was like, Darryl, how the hell do you go to school and you go to St. John's and you still cool and wear Adidas and stuff like that? So some of those kids, right, and they couldn't believe that. You got Adidas and Gazelles and stuff. So some of those kids, because we were putting that type of dialogue and content out, some of those kids was like, you know what? I'm dropping out the gang and threw the guns away. Yeah. Some of them kids went and got GEDs and got employment. Hip-hop didn't just create rappers. It created doctors. and journalists and artists and revolutionaries. So we've been doing it from the beginning. The proof is in the pudding.
All right, so Doc, he called you out on this. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I just want to say a couple of things. I mean, it's hard to add to that, but going back to the message, today a lot of people talk about social determinants of health. It's like the new buzzword. It's almost as if it was suddenly invented. But the truth of the matter is, if you go back to the message and you watch the video of the message or you listen to the lyrics of the message, it's all about social determinants of health.
Yeah.
It's actually social determinants of premature mortality. If you listen to the lyrics, it's like a jungle sometimes that makes me wonder how I keep from going. Now, what is that jungle? That is the social environment.
Yes.
That's the jungle that's pushing him into the edge. And so we can put safety nets in our communities and hope people don't fall through the cracks. We can put ambulances at the bottom of the cliff and whisk them off to the hospital. We can put fences at the edge of the cliff and hope people don't fall down. But what we really need to do is move those folks further away from the cliff so that they're not at risk for falling.
Yes.
That's what we need to do.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is, the greatest predictor of life expectancy in the United States is zip code.
Yes.
It's where you live.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is, genetics might load the cannon, but it's the environment that pulls the trigger.
Yes.
And because of structural racism, too many people are living in environments right at the edge of the cliff.
That's powerful. Before we move on to our, thank you both. Before we move on to our last question, I want to make Sister Fa, Ali, anything to add based on what we just heard?
Bueno, sí, quiero decir que las enfermedades mentales existen, sobre todo en países violentos.
I'd like to say that yes, mental illness exists, especially in countries affected by violence.
Vivimos todo el tiempo una guerra, una jungla, como dicen mis compañeros.
We live all the time in a war, in a jungle, like my fellow.
Pero sobre todo hay que volver al origen, siempre creo que hay que volver al origen y en este momento hay una lucha por los likes, por los streams.
But we have to go back to the origin, to the source. Right now there's a battle for likes and for the streams.
Y solo quiero decir que el hip hop es mucho más grande que eso.
And I just want to say that hip hop is so much bigger than that.
Yes, yes. Sister Fa? Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Definitely. What I just would like to add is like from the beginning, I was seeing the hip hop music as something like very patriarchal, where men was like dominating. Mm-hmm. And then also they was using lot of text that was not really glorifying women, and also other people from their orientation. And I just hope that the rapper will get the courage of accepting each person from the communities, the way you are, what you have chosen for your life, to really respect each person, and then to use it as a very positive music to really protect and to really stand for those vulnerable people that belong to our society also. This is really what I'm seeing.
That's beautifully said, beautifully said. So we don't have a lot of time, but as we end this conversation, I've got to ask, who's got next, right? What are the possibilities for hip-hop? Where do we go from here, Darryl?
Well, one of the first things that we have to do is stop just focusing hip-hop with the music. There are there are journalists, there are writers, there are novelists, there are playwrights. Y'all seen Hamilton, right?
Yes, we have.
So we've been doing it with the music. We got that locked down. Now there's other areas of art and education that we can use hip-hop to inspire, motivate, and educate. And I just have to add this, too. We learned from the people we stole from. Because when hip-hop got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a lot of people got mad. But what they don't understand is everybody that's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for these young boys and girls from the Bronx that was burning, had no opportunity. Those vinyl records on wax offered us an opportunity to share our stories, to inspire, motivate, and make change, not in just our communities, from the Bronx, New York, globally to Africa, to Colombia, all around the world. We learn from art, there's a difference between a celebrity in an artist.
Yes.
Because art has the ability to transform. So we learn from individuals like Neil Young, who when there was a shooting at Kent State University, he didn't run to the record company, he ran to the studio and wrote a record called Ohio. We learned from John Lennon, we learned from Bob Dylan, we learned from Joni Mitchell, we learned from Curtis Mayfield.
Yes.
We learned from John Fogerty, Fortunate Son. So even though hip hop started as a party and release, the only thing that we could never let hip-hop lack, and it's lacking in the entertainment business, is like Sister Fa said, responsibility. Yeah. There's a responsibility to the individual that gets behind a mic with a DJ behind them and whatever they speak. We have to learn to, if you make a record about a gun, you can tell that story. But the very next record the radio station needs to play in hot rotation 300 times a day so the young people can hear it is the record about not using it.
Brilliant.
They don't do that.
They do not
we
do
need
that.
more of that. That's it.
That's brilliant. Jide, quickly.
Yeah, so real quick, if you take the I out of illness and you add we, you get wellness.
Wellness.
Okay?
Wellness.
You get wellness.
Yes. Yes.
And so what we need to do is, rather than leaving public health to public health professionals, everyone, we all need to get involved. And that includes hip hop. And so at Hip Hop Public Health, the next 50 years, hip hop is turning 50, the next 50 years, we want to focus the genre on health and healing.
Well said. Sister Fa.
Yeah. For me, hip-hop is a way of communicating. And who talks about communication already have something very powerful in your hand. And I think through the next years coming, if we really do our best to work with the youth, to work with the vulnerable group, to use our music, our text, to educate the new generation, to build a better world, I'm sure that we can make it through the music and through hip-hop music. I'm very sure.
Beautiful. Ali, bring it home for us.
Ok, bueno, creo que ninguno de nosotros podemos escoger el lugar donde nacemos ni podemos escoger a nuestros padres.
None of us can pick where we're born, and we can't pick who our parents are.
Pero sí podemos elegir cambiar nuestro entorno.
But we can choose to change our
Y
environment.
yo tengo la suerte que el hip hop me abrió las puertas.
And I have the
Y tengo la suerte de que por medio del hip hop estoy llevando un mensaje que es un mensaje propio, es un mensaje mío.
hip hop opened the door for me, and I'm taking the message of hip hop, and it's a message that's mine.
Es un mensaje lleno de identidad, pero es un mensaje basado en lo que nos han enseñado nuestros padres del hip hop, como es el caso de Darryl.
It's a message that's filled with my identity, and it's about what I've been taught by my parents, but it's also about what I've learned from
Esto es
people
como un
like Darryl.
tsunami. Una vez que entras, ya no puedes salir.
It's once like a tsunami. Once you go in, you can't get out
Así
of
que
it.
quiero agradecer a cada uno de ustedes que están acá presentes porque sé que están trabajando en proyectos muy importantes para que la humanidad llegue a un nivel de relación más amable.
I want to thank everybody in this room because I know that you're working on projects to take the world to a place where there's just relationships and
Muchas gracias por
functions
invitarme.
in a kinder way. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me.
So this was some serious knowledge that was dropped, but I have to say, I got goosebumps because Sucker MCs was my jam, Darryl. And Flo, you gotta hit it. I'm DMC in the place to be. I go to St. John's University. I'm CLD in the place to be. I go to Harvard University. Okay, stop. Enough. Sorry, I'm so sorry, Darryl. I had to do it, and I will never do it again. Never, ever do it again. But I will say the bar has been set so low that you are actually in for a phenomenal treat. So you now have to join me in sort of bringing these brilliant artists to the stage. Darryl MC McDaniels.
1, 2, 1, 2. Woo! How's everybody doing? Now, they say music calms the savage beast.
Yeah.
Hip Hop Public Health says music can heal disease. And like Sister Fa And you know, Colombia knows music can bring the peace. So we're gonna do this for all of y'all. And we want y'all to dance, jump, rhyme, clap your hands, sing along. 1, 2, 3, in the place to be. I am DMC, the K-I-N-G, and this right here is history. And we are, and you are, the crush grooving, the body moving, the record making, and the record breaking. And it goes a little something like this. It goes a 1, 2, 3, and here we go. 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 DMC without DJ Run. Dum diddy dum diddy diddy dum dum. We're rocking on the mic and then you know where we're from. Dum diddy dum diddy diddy dum dum. We hope you're ready for the big beat drum. Drum diddy drum drum. So people in the place hear the big beat come. Here it come, here it come, here it kitty come. Come on everybody, let's all get down. What we have is a brand new sound. So nobody out there be misled. We make up all these rhymes inside our head. The other MCs cannot compete. When we rap on the mic to this big beat, the beat is big, it's kind of large. And when we're on a mic, we're in charge. I'm not afraid of the dark anymore because I am the light. I'll be there at the start of the war because I am the fight. I'll be the first to walk through the door cause I don't want you to die. I'm not gonna cry anymore because I already cried.
Juróom ñeenti weer la ëmb bés bu yàlla sàkk te diggante digg na sëmb mais mun ne batt bu nekk ci ndox daal di ci dëmb ba kere ngeen di tàqaliku ndox sa bakkan mu daal di lëmës ci benn sërëm mu sàmm la faj laaj ci biir këram musal la ci ay xërëm def si yow ay dërëm mën nga la mën la gërëm ndax yaa ngi fàttaliku du doon li fay yegg ma.
Come on, everybody, come on, put your hands up.
Put 'em on.
Compañeros, es muy necesario educarnos para entender cómo el poder tiene el placer de doblegarnos. Estamos viviendo de un diario y hay que liberarnos para saber cómo crecer sin tener que limitarnos. Somos el resultado de una guerra histórica sin lógica que vive allá amparada en la política. Somos la dignidad que no cree en su retórica metódica porque en verdad es descarada y cínica. Es triste allá como tapan la realidad, como abusa la autoridad, como reina la impunidad, como la tranquilidad te impone el precio de ser esclavo obediente y de mantener siempre el silencio.
I think we would like to say a big up to the Skoll Foundation for this lovely event, for the invitation. Thanks to all of you for coming today. Congratulations and keep on going this beautiful job. Thanks for the Skoll Foundation. Merci.
Gracias. Gracias.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Oh. Okay.
You know 1 year the hotel caught fire? I think we can officially say the entire Skoll World Forum is on fire.
It's true. Oh my God. Little tip, if you ever have to speak to a bunch of people on a stage, do not scream like this right before. Oh, I'm out of breath. I have asthma, guys. I can't do this. Like, this is not good. Not good. How do you follow that?
Well, at Skoll World Forum, we follow that by bringing out the rock stars of the global community health workers movement.
That's all. Woo!
Yeah. We are living out the end of one pandemic whilst also looking ahead to the next one. And one thing we all know for sure is that we do not want a repeat experience. We want to be able to be back here together, meeting every year. So is the world doing what needs to be done? Leading our next conversation is Gail Smith, member of the Skoll board and CEO of the One campaign. At the beginning, I have more. At the beginning of the pandemic, she was campaigning against her government to do more. And then she got a call from the White House, and President Biden called her bluff. He put her in charge of the US's global COVID response. So in conversation with her, we have two of the Skoll awardees who have really pioneered frontline health work. We have Angela Gichaga.
Get up for Angela.
CEO of Financing Alliance for Health and the co-CEO of Africa Frontline First, and Raj Panjabi, Skoll board member and President Emeritus of Last Mile Health. Give our rock stars
Give them
a
a
warm
hand.
welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Hard act. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Calm. Still. Hi. We've been sitting back there saying, oh God, this is going to be so bad. Anyway, I'm the newest member of the Skoll board, and they didn't tell me that what they do to you is you join the board, and they say you should come to the Skoll Forum, we'll make it all great, you get to go to everything. And then we're going to ask you to follow 50 years of hip-hop and talk about a virus. So, and this, by the way, this is on top of the fact that I was one of the lead singers for the Velvet Pentagram in Khartoum, Sudan for many years. So we're going to start with your artistic contribution.
Can't you tell? Dancing, 95% confidence, 5% talent, but who's asking?
Well, look, before I was Panjabi MD, I was dancing to Panjabi MC. I was on a Bungar team in college, and we were fusing hip hop and Bhangra.
There you go. Okay, calm. Virus. Okay, so what we want to talk about here is people, right? So you talk about the pandemic, which I'm sorry it's not over yet, and we talk about preventing the next one. And what I find is that when people do that, they talk about stuff. We need this system, we need this pandemic radar, we need this bit of science, this bit of expertise, all important. But the backbone is what you two know about and champion, and that's people. And how do people make the difference in prevention? Because that's really what we need, right? Yeah. So Angela, I want to start with you. You know something about this, apparently, right? And ask you, what's the biggest lesson you've learned during the course of this pandemic about people and how we bring people into the mix as the backbone?
Yeah. 3 years. It was, the years flew by fast, but the days were long. So 4 lessons for me around the pandemic. The first one is health showed us that it is a development sector issue with social and economic implications. What started as a health challenge quickly snowballed into a social and economic challenge that was a big issue for us. The second lesson I learned from the pandemic was we can't tell when a pandemic will start, the exact millisecond that a pandemic will start or end, but we can tell where it starts and ends, and it's in the communities. So we have to strengthen our front lines of defense within the communities that can be there to deliver daily and essential services, but when needed, in a situation like a pandemic, can be quickly ramped up to be a strong defense line at the front line. The third lesson I learned, and in homage to 50 years of hip-hop, One very famous professor once said, more money, more problems. But what we learned during the pandemic is actually less money is still more problems. We have had decades of underfunding to the healthcare system, but in 3 years of the pandemic, we spent trillions of dollars, which could have been invested prior to the pandemic over the decades, and that would potentially have been just millions of dollars. So there is money. There is money. It's just about how are we choosing to invest that money. And the last lesson I've learned is a leaf offers no shade alone. Some of these challenges that we are facing currently may seem quite pressing and almost insurmountable because we're thinking about individuals trying to fight these challenges. But the truth is, it's not about me. It's not about you alone. It's about governments and funders and philanthropies and innovators and implementers coming together. We are the forest of defense. And right now, this is forest time. We need to be the shade of protection.
Okay, Raj, top that. Raj, look, you've lived through the same pandemic and you went in knowing a lot. What are the lessons you take away?
Well, other than that, I'm a terrible teacher of my kids at home all the time when they're
Yeah.
at school. But, I think, so much of what you said resonated. Number one, medical breakthroughs are not enough, right? Vaccines, tests, treatments, they don't administer themselves. Health workers do that. People do that, as you said. Number two, we got to bring care to people. Can't wait for people to come to care. Every country that invested in hiring local people from their own communities, from Baltimore in the Governor Moore's Maryland state, to the forest of Liberia in West Africa, to the villages of Cambodia. Every country that put money in the pockets of those workers, trained them and equipped them and made them part of the medical team, had a lower death rate from COVID than countries that didn't do that. So we've got to bring care to people, not wait for people to come to care. And the last one is inspired also by hip hop. The D in DMC, my brother, I understand, is doing it all the time. Right?
Right.
So if you want to be prepared for the next pandemic, you better respond to the current outbreaks, epidemics, and not just the infectious diseases, but the everyday epidemics of premature death happening in our communities. You got to build muscle by using it. So you've got to build a good healthcare system that reaches all people in the first place.
So, it would all work out if all the world's big decision makers just sort of said like they said and did it, right? Didn't happen. Hasn't happened yet. And one of the things that's really challenging is that unlike this group, I mean, social entrepreneurs are learners, right? You iterate. It's a constant, thriving learning organization that each of you leads or participates with. Government doesn't quite operate that way, right? I mean, we heard from Wes Moore. He wants to make Maryland a socially innovative state, and hopefully he will do it and set the model. But part of the challenge we face is that you just spoke the truth. The world spent $14 trillion responding to a pandemic and has invested nothing near that in preventing the next one. So if part of our challenge is to make a persuasive argument to people who should know better, but haven't quite turned the switch, how would you make the most persuasive argument that investing in communities like the two of you have said is the most important thing we could do? How would you pitch that?
Gail, again, 4 things. We're told we can only remember 3 things, but I'm a bit extra, so we'll do 4 things.
You got to challenge us.
Raj.
Progress.
Really? So the first thing, target audience. Second thing, the case. The third thing, tactics, the fourth things together. So one, the target audience. The challenge we continue to face is we keep preaching to the choir. We believe that health and pandemics belong within ministries of health, and they are important. But we've seen that it is a multi-sectoral approach. We need to be talking to the people who have the resources to allocate. We should be having ministries of finance at the table. We should be having ministries that have line investments and thinking around the next pandemic. The second is the case. Again, it's very important to invest in saving lives and keeping people healthy. We all agree on that. But there are multiple and diverse incentives within different ministries in government, and we need to speak to those, even to investors. We need to talk about, it's not just about the health impact that we're trying to drive. We are saying we're keeping people alive and well so that they are more productive. They can contribute to the GDP. They can help with the economy growing. That will bring and crowd in investors. We need to think about what is the economic return on investment and cost savings to the entire health systems. That will crowd in the private sector. We need to talk about the jobs that are created and how global health has a large percentage of women who serve within the global health sector. That is a gender lens that we need to bring to it. So really expanding the way we talk about the case in health to touch on these very key issues. The third is tactics. Co-developing and presenting shovel-ready ideas, as Ben likes to say, and tactical ways immediately that can be tapped into. For example, the Africa Frontline First initiative. Once you co-develop a very immediate action that can be taken, once you galvanize a group of people, it's easy for them to see not just the what you're trying to achieve, but the how you're trying to achieve it. And the fourth thing is collective action as well.
I think that is absolutely on point. One of the key things you said there, you persuade somebody, but then you got to take them to it and show them here's exactly how you do it. Raj, what would you do to make the case? Not that you are ever in a position where you need to make the case.
You know, persuasion comes down to, the Aristotle's three: ethos, pathos, logos, right? So ethos. Introduce the leaders to these people.
Yeah.
They got to go out on the canoe up the river and hike for 3 hours to go visit the little boy who got better because a community health worker helped teach the mom how to take that nutritious porridge. You got to go up, down to the barbershop in Baltimore and listen to the community workers who teamed up with the barbers to educate people who were worried about getting the vaccine to actually take it in the barbershop. So I think that's one. It's just to actually remind people that they're ethical human beings that are noble, that are inspiring. Mm-hmm. The second thing is logos, right? Logic. You pointed it out, $14 trillion on responding to the pandemic, but not as much in terms of focusing anywhere close in preventing and preparing for it. But the truth is, if you invest, $1 in a community health worker,
you get
$10. Sounds like we might have worked together before.
I've never seen you before.
You get $10
Raj.
in return in terms of saving lives, stopping outbreaks, creating jobs for people. That's a return on investment. But here's another way to think about it. If you spend billions of dollars today, you can prevent the loss of trillions of dollars tomorrow, and you can save millions more lives. Why does that all matter? And this is where I come to pathos, passion. Because in the end, no one in this room would disagree with the mere fact that someone who is working to give care to another human being deserves to be fully supported to do it. But the truth is, right now, every year, $1 trillion of women's work in healthcare, and most community health workers and most frontline workers are women. $1 trillion of women's work in healthcare on the front lines goes unpaid every single year. So we've got to match, when we talk about equity, gender equity, we've got to match our dollars with our words. And I think, to me, that's the third big part of the argument.
I hear you on that, and I would, you had 4, you had 3, that's 7. Have an even number, I'll throw in one other thing. It's on your, no, it's on your tactics. Somebody once said to me, talk to people where they are, not where you think they should be. It's really hard, because I know where everybody should be, right? But it gets to your point on tactics and your point on audience, is think of where somebody's coming from and talk to them there, and all 3 of your points, get them there. So one of the things we talk about at the One campaign is being fierce but fair. And I think a lot about where exactly am I on the fierce but fair scale, right? You always got to be fair. To be honest, I've been feeling it's important to be a bit more fierce. We have a room full of hundreds of people, all of whom have been touched by this pandemic, either because you work on it, because it undermined your lives and livelihoods and families, it locked you down, it shut things off, it prevented you from gathering here for the last couple of years. So we've got voices that can go make the arguments you've said, that can put out a call to action, which is very simple. Do not make us do this again. We know how to prevent it. We know how to invest in the people who are in the forefront. So what is your call to action to all of your friends and colleagues out here? To go home and do what?
We cannot be complacent. Let's truly learn the lessons from the pandemic. That's the first call of action. We are not restoring factory settings. No, we have refused. We are moving forward. We are learning. We are doing better. The second is, let's be very tactical and pragmatic. You know, we are not being complacent. We are working together. As I mentioned before, we are being proactive in presenting solutions and initiatives that can be potential pathways to responding and preventing and protecting us from the next pandemic. There are people in this room who have been working and continue to work together to bring practical solutions to different stakeholders. The Africa Frontline First is a great example of this. It's not the only one, and I know the whole week there are multiple solutions that have been shared. But what is the Africa Frontline First initiative? It's a collaborative effort of multiple people within this room who are looking to strengthen those community health systems, building well-supported and well-resourced community health systems so that we can create 200,000 jobs, paid jobs, for majority women across 10 countries by 2030. The goal is to extend care beyond health facilities to about 100 million people across the continent. That's tactical, that's practical, that's a ready solution.
Real.
Exactly. And the coalition is already in place. $100 million has already been invested thanks to Skoll Foundation, J&J, the Global Fund, and that country engagement is already beginning. So we are acting. We have learned. We are not being complacent. We've come together. We are acting. And I challenge everyone in all your areas, act, but act together. We are the forest. We can prevail, but we must act now and act together.
Yeah, foot stomp, all of that. I think the thing I would just add is, look, in the end, all of us in this room are working not just on behalf of, but with people. They could be frontline health workers, they could be smallholder farmers, they could be folks in indigenous communities in Southeast Asia that are in Indonesia that are trying to protect our biodiversity, as we heard last night. Do not underestimate the power of bringing those people to the halls of power, to be on panels, to speak their mind, and just to demonstrate how powerful this idea is. A few weeks ago, a number of you were involved in organizing the 3rd International Community Health Worker Conference in West Africa, where I grew up, in Monrovia, my hometown in Liberia. And at that conference, it was all about how do we better support these workers so they can stop the pandemics and the everyday epidemics of premature suffering and death. They invited, like most of these international conferences, delegations from other countries. About 50 countries came to the conference. But the organizers of that conference said, you cannot just bring a health minister to this conference.
Right.
You got to bring a community health worker from your country. And then they went one step further. And I credit groups like the Community Health Impact Coalition that have been a big part of this community. They said, you are going to have a set of panels. About 90% of them had community health workers speaking, so that all the health ministers in the room could listen to their voices.
That's it.
And I think doing that, whether you're in health, you're trying to fight climate change, you're trying to promote democracy, you're fighting for racial equity and justice, you've got, that has the most power of every single thing we try to do.
I think you're 100% right. Look, it's that power of the voice. And this is something all of us can do. I think there's enormous solidarity across the room, across this city, across the world, which is shine a spotlight on what works, stand in solidarity with the people who have led us thus far through this pandemic, and always remember to pass the mic, because there is nothing more powerful than the voice of the people at the front line. Like these guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay. They're going to walk in front of you.
Oh, where? Don't go anywhere. No. Thank you so much. This was a real treat. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's fine. Oh. We just wanted to be able to thank you in person here. Okay.
Oh, now we
That's
go.
it.
Yeah, you're busy. Go. You're real busy. We need you. Go.
Go save the world is all good. And now, Skoll has prepared this short, really sweet video to remind all of us of our best moments this week. So let's watch it together. Welcome, everyone, to the 20th Skoll World Forum.
Oxford, we are back. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to understand. How two hands can touch and the bonds will never be broken. Let me always keep my distance from those who think they have the answers. Let me always keep company with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads.
Inspiration spreads as fast as anger. You can change people's minds and opinions through this work. And isn't that a glorious thing? Yeah. That the possibility to shift and to pivot and to participate and to move, like that becomes ignited when times get hard.
We can be an unstoppable force at making change in the world. And that's what I see ahead for us all. It's incredible what good people will do if given the opportunity to be good.
We all face the same choice in life over and over again. It's the choice between the hard right and the easy wrong. Diversity is not just a woke principle that people just say, oh, well, we should be for this. It's essential to the quality and integrity and efficacy of our collective self-governance.
We should never forget that an enormous wave of change is composed of millions of drops of water. And you are one, and you are one, and you are one, and I am one. I think we need to create the waves of change.
When something like the pandemic happens, our first knee-jerk reaction is, oh my God, let me just hibernate, let me just save what I've built. And we decided we wanted to go big. This is when we are needed the most.
Our future is about self-determination, self-actualization, and self-definition. Folks in these communities have to be the ones to decide what happens, when it happens, where it happens, and with whom it happens.
Local people, rural communities, smallholder farmers, indigenous populations are the most effective guardians of the richest landscapes on Earth in carbon and species diversity. They need to be at the very heart of any nature-based solution to the climate crisis.
That is the problem with the value chain, is that the people working the hardest are actually making the least amount of money.
What if in the next 20 years, the biggest companies in the world are the ones established to deliver social services? We have a rethink of how companies go public. Imagine creating a stock exchange for social innovation.
There are a lot of marginalized communities all over the world, including in Europe, including in the US, that have not benefited from this current system. And they've been pushed into kind of a race to the bottom to compete against each other for whatever little bit they can get.
It's important that we start talking about how communities can fortify their truth in spite of the disinformation that is targeted at them by the government or big corporations.
Women and girls will be 14x more likely to die of climate disasters, not because of our biology, but because of our marginalization.
My journey into this work was really informed by my personal experience and the lack of dignity in the healthcare system. The reality is we don't place as much value on women with disabilities. And so it's easy for those issues to be swept under the rug.
If the pandemic did not teach you anything, please, may it have taught you this one lesson, that health is a valuable asset that we have, that we need to protect and we need to invest in.
No, we're not talking about agriculture anymore. We're talking about food. And we're talking about food systems, so financing, climate, gender. And together we can basically deconstruct the barriers we've created and ensure that as Africans, we feed ourselves and feed the world.
It's not that you just have to stop telling stories that are stigmatizing, especially to communities of color, but you need to actually tell stories that show the agency, the capacity, the creativity everywhere.
There is a way to do things that can inspire people to think differently, to do things the right way. Whoever you are, let people see it in the way you live your life. That authenticity, I think, inspires people to do things differently.
When people would say to me, they'd say, I believe that poverty is a choice. I'd say, you know what? You're right. But it's not the choice of the person who's sitting with the oppressive weight of poverty on their shoulders. It's a societal choice. It's a policy choice.
I've been looking forward to this day for 4 years.
I have been blown away by the power of the social innovators that the Skoll Foundation supports. By investing in social innovations ripe for accelerated system-level impact, the Skoll Awards help unleash the full potential and reach of social change leaders. The recipients of the award are the standard bearers of the world we imagine, a sustainable world of peace and prosperity for all.
We call us as human beings to embrace the collective spirits. This is the basis of our common humanity. The collective must survive and prosper.
We say equity is just and fair inclusion into a society in which all can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. And the key word there is all. There are so many of us who are not afraid to embrace the all. I ask you to find those leaders. Invest in their institutions, invest in their visions, invest in their dreams. The world needs that now more than ever.
I often say that the attempts to achieve universal health care are like filling a leaking bucket. We can put in as many resources as we want, but the leak will still be there. We can create a world where everyone is equipped with the tools that they need to live healthier lives.
We believe that an economic system is possible, that instead of looking at the natural resources as a source to consume, land to clear, that you can keep the forest and you have lots of biodiversity products and ecosystem services that protect all of us because of climate change.
Just as we have woven addressing the climate and addressing racial equity into all of our work, we have to weave in sustaining a healthy democracy too. So let's make that commitment right now. Let's stand up for democracy. If you can, if you're able, let's stand up, or raise your hand if you're not.
make this commitment right now. This community, this world, we will not let democracy die on our watch.
That was incredible. Were your best moments all reflected in there, Jess?
No, I had so many more. I mean, I need a feature-length version. I need the entire hip-hop thing that has happened has to be in there. Give me more.
That's true. That's true. And of course, there's someone who couldn't be here with us this week physically, but really, we wouldn't be gathered here this week if it weren't for his generosity and his own sense of duty. We've been talking a lot about duty today. So many people this week have told me how much they wish that this man could have been here with us to celebrate with us, to meet, to connect, to dance, maybe, dare I say. Thank you, Jeff Skoll, for your incredible generosity, for supporting this community.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, come on, thank you, Jeff. Now, I know what you're thinking. What crazy piece of goodness do they hold back to close the show after all of that? Well, our final guest at the Skoll World Forum this year is the first British artist to win a Grammy for each of his first 4 albums. His debut album, he performed and produced in the back room of his family home in North London. His YouTube channel caught the ear of Quincy Jones, and since then he has been touring the world and continues to release new music to his 1.25 million YouTube subscribers.
If you haven't guessed already, please watch this short introduction to Jacob Collier. Woo!
Once upon a time, a teenager in the suburbs of North London uploaded some videos to YouTube, and they became a global sensation.
The multi-instrumental maestro of the 21st century, Jacob Collier.
Jacob Collier.
Jacob Collier.
I think we have a musical genius right here.
I promise you, you've never seen this before, heard this before.
Whatever he does blows my mind. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I thought I was good with harmonies. No, he was all over my stuff and past that.
Jacob made music history by being the only British artist ever to win Grammys for each of his first 4 albums.
Jacob Collier is a human music store.
It's like a magician at work. That.
So much of what he does is at the edge of the impossible.
He can do anything, so what do you do? And I feel like the best thing to choose is the thing that really resonates with your soul.
Slipping on the mudslide. We could cut the chit chat. Give me that.
There's a tree that looks up at the moon. In the garden where I held you for a moment in the blue. Take me anywhere you want.
Some people say, well, music's very emotional, but I actually think people are very emotional. And music is one of the ways in which we can express that. The truth is, no one knows why music is so extraordinary and why it does have the power to move so many people and bring so many people together. I'd like to see a world where people feel liberated to be the person that they are, to connect, to express in a fearless way. I think that would be a world that I'd like to live in.
Each morning I get up and dial it. Can barely stand on my feet. Take a look in the mirror and cry. Lord, what you been doing to me? I spent all my days to believe in you, but I just can't get no relief. No. Somebody, can anybody find me? Somebody love. I work hard every day of my life. I work till I ache my bones. At the end of the day, I take all my money, all of my own. Well, I get down on my knees and I start to pray until the tears roll down from my eyes. Lord, somebody, can anybody find me? Somebody every day But everybody wants to put me down. They say I'm going crazy. Like I just got water in my brain. It's like I got nobody left to leave. Find me somebody to love. 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 Oh, find me somebody to love. Somebody to love. Find somebody to oh, find somebody to love. Find somebody to
Thank you very much indeed. That was beautiful. You seem very warmed up. How are you all doing? Are you doing okay? Have you had yourselves a lovely day? I can tell. It's so nice to be here. It's really an honor to be able to sort of close out today's proceedings with some music. It seems like you're all musicians, which is great. How many of you would call yourselves musicians? And how many of you are actually musicians? Come on, that sounded amazing. That sounded really, really good. Well, my name's Jacob, and I come from London, which is not far from here. Oh, hi, yeah. Fantastic. And I have just a few songs for you. I'm going to get my guitar, which is where the next song begins. But as I'm getting my guitar, I wanted to just say a few things. I'll put this back in here as I do so. Boom. So, I've had my ear to the ground for the last few hours, and it seems like there are all manner of brilliant, expert, heart-filling people in this room who are committed to all manner of human connection and saving the world and all sorts of big, beautiful, brazen statements like this. And it's amazing to stand amongst you. From my perspective, music, I think, has an interesting place and an interesting role to play in this whole crazy world that we find ourselves in. We're in a very uncertain world where a lot of people don't know what on earth is going on. And I think I look around me at people who really want to change, and they want to enable each other to change. And I have a belief about change, really, which is that change, no matter what kind of change it is, it begins here rather than here. I'm sure many of you may agree with that, but I think for me, thank you very much. I've heard many people speak in a way over the last few years, specifically about the environment, where these kinds of figures are held up in our faces as people, these stats, and we're expected to be moved by the stats, moved to make a change. And actually, honestly, a lot of us are just overwhelmed, because stats don't mean anything to a human being, you know. And if you sit down and concentrate and pay attention, you can wake yourselves up to things based on those. But fundamentally, I think the thing we most need of all is just to come together, and that's where it begins. And if you can access somebody's heart, then you can access their mind. It doesn't work the other way around necessarily. And I think music has a really unique, stellar ability to find people as they are, being what they are, without changing them in a common place. And it's a very beautiful and safe arena for us to explore ourselves and explore each other and explore what it means to express our own personal experience of the world. And all of us in this room is so different from the next. But I think in a world so filled with different kinds of words and different kinds of opinions, many differing, I think music offers a beautiful space where we can meet and maybe not need to change each other's minds. We can agree on one thing, which is that we're here and we're singing sometimes. And that feels important and it feels beautiful, and I feel very, very lucky to be a musician at this time, and it is a very challenging time. But what music can remind me of most of all at its hardest, when life is at its hardest, is that there's an immense amount to live for. There really is. And I feel very lucky to be able to keep exploring as I am, and to be able to share that with you is a real treat. So thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
you.
That was incredible.
Friends, it is a wrap. Woo!
That was a real treat. Before we go, we would just like to offer our personal thanks to all of you for bearing with us. And our heartfelt congratulations to Dawn and Marla and the entire Skoll team. You've been so amazing. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And the good news is, it's only 364 days until we meet again here and online. So thank you.
But no great gathering should end without raising our glasses. So I say it's all back to Jacob's. Let's take this piano and not practical? Okay, well, we can go to the town hall at 7 p.m. So we will see you there for
yes,
the
let's
closing
party.
celebration, and we'll see you back here next year.
Woo, thank you.